All right. Good to see everyone here. Welcome to our Better ERC emergency strategy session. I'm going to bring in also Mr. Greg Ammerman. Let's go ahead and get him up in here for everyone to see and, gain some wisdom from this fine gentleman. But hey, let's do a quick introduction. Obviously, everyone in here likely knows who I am. My name is Curtis Johnson. I am the president of Better. And we are going to talk about today probably the touchiest subject on just about anyone's mind on this call, which is this brutal subject, which is employee retention credits. Because let's face it, let's just start off on the right foot here, folks. Many of you, including myself, have spent countless hours, hundreds of hours, maybe even thousands of hours helping businesses get into and through this process that is, getting their employee retention credits over to the IRS. Has that been a smooth process? No. In fact, it's been pretty much the opposite of that. I would say it's probably been a brutal process for most people. And for some of you, you're sitting there going, well, shoot, it's actually made my relationship with a couple of these clients a little tougher, simply by nature of the fact that I promised them the sun, moon, and stars, and the sun, moon, and stars are still in the sky, but they ain't in my pocket. So it does have that feeling of being a little bit tough. And I want you to understand that I'm not going to lie to you saying we're working tirelessly in the background to get you all your ERC commissions, because just like you, there's sort of this tough position, which is that we are waiting on the IRS. They are sitting in there pushing through commissions. I want you to understand that we are seeing many commissions coming through now. We are seeing many come through from old cases and some even that are more recent that don't necessarily make sense why those are coming through and why some that are a year older have not yet come through. But today what we're going to work on doing is helping you look at this and have a little bit of strategy going forward. I can't promise you that some of you are not going to, you might have 20 clients, 10 clients, 100 clients that are in with the IRS. I can't promise you that doing these things will make it so every penny that you're expecting comes through. We cannot promise that, but we can do things that will at least increase the likelihood that more of them will come through and that more of your clients will get more of what they deserve. Okay. So without any further ado, and also before I actually intro, one thing that I want everyone to know is at the tag and at the end of this call, kind of like as our wrapping up piece, I'm going to talk to you about a very effective strategy to make sure that you capitalize not on just, getting them the credit that they deserve. That's obviously an important part, but also making sure that you kind of tag on the next piece, okay? So we are going to talk about that at the very end and make sure that you have things that you can do, because in my opinion, and I talked about this on the sales huddle for anyone who's one of our Better Plus or Better Pro members, we talked about this earlier today, actually. And I'm going to touch on a couple pieces of that today as well, but we talked about the importance of action. And I think all of you know that. But hey, speaking of action, let's make sure that we don't take up a ton of your time. I don't intend for this call to be more than, call it, half hour at the absolute max. So let's get Jet, if you could go ahead and spotlight Greg Ammerman here. Most of you know him. Some of you, and let's be clear about this. First off, if you are in here, and I made this clear for everyone on Wisdom Wednesday when I announced this, but whether you're here and you did all your business with Jorns, and Greg was your shining star and you followed this man through thick and thin, or you worked with Top Notch, it doesn't so much matter, because what we're going to cover today, frankly, is strategy that applies regardless of any company you worked with, because it really is strategy having to do with how you interact with your client. So this will apply no matter what, but Greg is someone who, is a dear friend of mine, and, we've obviously worked side by side for a while here with employee retention credits. I know he is a brilliant salesman and a brilliant educator, and I think that he actually would probably have preferred me introduce him in the opposite direction, a brilliant educator, and then also happens to be a brilliant salesman. But I know that I got an email from him, and I was like, wow, this is some brilliant strategy with regards to what to do with some of these ERC clients. And I was like, hey, what do you think about getting on with the Better crew and helping them understand some of this strategy? And was more than happy to accommodate. So, Mr. Greg Ammerman, welcome, sir.
Curtis, a pleasure to be here. First of all, stop throwing around the word brilliant, okay? That's a lot to live up to. I don't know about
I
brilliant in any way,
apologize.
shape, or form.
Let
Let's
me
just
introduce the average intelligence.
there you
I
go.
don't even want to say
Now,
Mr. Greg
listen.
Ammerman.
Well,
We're just
then,
going
then
to
I
call
have
him
a
Greggy Boy.
then I
Average
have a better
intelligence Greggy Boy here for everyone's entertainment.
I have a better chance of living up to that. So no, it's good to be here. Good to see everybody. And hey, one of the things I appreciate all the things you were saying is being straightforward and candid, and that's what we'll be today. I happen to live in Curacao now, but I am originally from New York, so being straightforward is definitely my style. But of course, everybody wants to see ERC come through. It was promoted as a very big opportunity for businesses. It was, of course, touted as an incredible way for businesses to get these monies that were due them under the law. And obviously, if you were the person that was the linchpin to connect them to an ERC provider that could go ahead and pull that off, there was a potential for some substantial earnings. And first and foremost, I want to say none of that has changed. None of that has changed. Like nobody should think it's changed until somebody by law says it's changed, which hasn't been the case. There's just a lot of propaganda, a lot of talk, a lot of things that were said, and obviously congressmen and senators, yada, yada, yada. So the reality of it is there's just been a lot of wasted time, wasted energy. Um, and this is something that we all hate to say it, but it just requires a tremendous amount of patience on our part. However, there are some specific things we can do to ensure to the best of our ability that ultimately businesses get their funds and ultimately you get your funds. Of course, every day, no different than Curtis, I'm sure, gets, where's my commission? Well, your commission, obviously, there's a process to it, right? The process is the client has to get their money. That's the first part. The second part is the client has to pay Jorns or whatever the provider. Once it gets to that point, you're home free. There's never going to be an issue with Better. There's not going to be an issue with Jorns. There's not going to be an issue with me. It's never going to be an issue in that part. If you have not received your commissions, it's pretty simple. Either A, your client did not receive their money yet, or B, your client did receive their money and they didn't pay. It's really
Right.
boils down to that. So we're going to talk about understanding all of this from the beginning in relation to what the government, that's what this boils down to, the government, okay? They put a moratorium in place. For what reason? Whatever reason they want to say it is. All this fraud, whatever, it's not true, okay? You could do your own research. You can go on there. There's plenty of CPAs, tax attorneys, IRS enrolled agents that make videos that give candid answers. Right now, the IRS is being sued all over the place for obviously the long delays that have taken place and also for misinformation that they put out there and also for putting out even, which we'll talk about here in a minute, uh, declines of some of the monies and so forth and so on, because of course they're trying stall tactics. They're trying ways to not pay out as much money as they maybe want to. I don't know. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the law's the law. The law is the law. And you have to follow the law, just like they expect us to follow the law. They have to follow the law. So first and foremost, there was a moratorium put in place back in September 14th of 2023, believe it or not. And that was supposed to end by the 1st of 2024, which it did not. And there was also this potential law that was going to be enacted that was going to take back the ERC to January 31 of 2024. That was going to end the program. Well, just so you know, none of that has ever happened. ERC is still going right now. Companies can file right now until April 15th of 2025. Then the program will officially be over. That is not going to change. The law is not going to change. The program is not going to end. There's nothing in legislation that's even being talked about as it relates to a bill that's going to do that. Now, on top of that, the moratorium drug on and drug on and drug on till it finally was lifted. But at the same time, while it was lifted, the IRS started to also come up with these decline notices that went out, which were absurd. Because first of all, how can you decline something you don't investigate? How can you decline something that the appropriate and legal information was provided and you decline something? So, and then on top of that, how fair is it to receive a decline letter and then you have 30 days, which really isn't 30 days to appeal, because by the time you receive the letter, 2 weeks has gone by, and you have 30 days from the date of the letter, which is, again, ridiculous and asinine. And so at the end of the day, that's already changed from 30 days to 2 years. So now an appeal can take place for 2 years. Keep in mind, every client, and you can watch these videos again, go out and seek the information. But the bottom line is, what you'll notice is that these notifications are more than anything else likely to a client to maybe scare them into not wanting to appeal or just to leave it alone. Keep in mind, do I believe that there are some fraudulent cases that have been filed? Of course. Of course. But that's anything. Are there people that file fraudulent tax returns? Yes. Are there people that file when they sign up for to apply for a credit card? Do people lie sometimes on the credit card form? Yes, that happens. A percentage of it will happen. Are all the people that are being declined fit into that category? No. I can't speak for any other provider, but I can speak for Jones and Associates, and I can assure you that every single one of those clients, Jones and Associates, is willing to appeal. They're doing it aggressively. They're doing it for, as part of the agreement that they have with the client, because they know that they filed it by the book and by the law. So at the end of the day, these declines, in my opinion, humble opinion, are really just a way to try to slow down the amount of money that is being sent out by the IRS. Why do they care? I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Now, what does all that mean to you now, where you sit and where you stand? This is the most important part. You might have one client that you're waiting on. You might have 5, Curtis mentioned. You might have 20. You might have 100. But keep in mind that providers have thousands, okay? Jones and Associates has thousands and thousands and thousands. Simultaneously, just like all of you may not have received your money yet, you know who else hasn't received their money? Jones and Associates. So you have to be a business person. You have to be sensible about this. And you have to recognize that Jones and Associates cannot operate at the scale that they did when obviously monies were coming in, and they don't have the manpower at this particular time to call 15,000 clients and check on them and to see if they got any notices and to see if they received funds or declines or anything else of that matter. So this is where you, as a referral partner, this is where you earn your money. And also, this is where what Curtis said, if you have a client that may be a little agitated, frustrated, irritated, nothing to do with you, nothing to do with Better, nothing to do with Jones or any other provider, just simply having to do with who likes to wait. Nobody likes to wait when it comes to money. If somebody has $200,000 coming to them, they don't want to wait 2 years. They don't. So they're just frustrated. What can you do? What you can do is be proactive. What you can do is communicate with your client. Ask them, talk to them, text them, find out hey, let me ask you a question. I know you've been waiting quite some time for your funds. Have you received any checks from the IRS? Have you received any notifications from the IRS? Have you received, it's okay to say this, have you received any decline notices? All of these things are important so that we can make sure that your situation is handled in the best way possible. Keep in mind, yes, Jorns is sending out emails. They send out reminders if you're receiving. But you know how much time has gone by? A long time, right? We're talking now coming up on 2 years, 2 years for a lot of these cases, if not longer. So that means the power of attorneys that we've had on file, those aren't even effective. Do you understand? They run out. So we can't just automatically call the IRS on client's behalf. We have to get new power of attorneys. And we, again, don't have the manpower to do so. Are we acting upon the cases we get? Yes. Are we dealing with the cases we get? Yes. Are we effective in those cases? Absolutely. And we do it in a timely fashion. But the reality is, this is where you have to do your job. And I'm just telling you straight up, if you want to get your money, you are going to have a much greater chance of doing so if you communicate with their clients and follow up with them and see where they are in their minds as it relates to what they have seen, not seen, received, not received. Because also keep in mind, there are clients, we don't know if they got checks just because we again, do we expect everybody to be honest? Yes. Do we expect everybody who signed an agreement to adhere to the agreement? Sure. But it's been a long time, and out of sight, out of mind. And if somebody gets 100 grand or 200 grand or 500 grand and they have to give 20% and they don't want to or don't feel like they want to because it's been so long, you know who's not going to get their money? Jorns. You know who else is not going to get your money? You. So there are going to be clients that are also going to be people that they're not going to necessarily pay as they should because, well, a lot of time has gone by and maybe nobody will ask. So
Right.
all of that is possible. I'm not saying it's there are clients that will pay as soon as they receive their money. And do I believe that clients will receive their money? Yes, I do. I absolutely believe that 2025 people will be getting money. I see it picking up a little bit, not like it was, but it will again, I believe. And do I think it'll continue on to 2026? Yep, I do. I think it's going to be a while. I think it's still another couple of years that this is going to all play out with appeals and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the biggest thing is you got to be a proactive advocate of your client in that communication process and in a sense for yourself. Because obviously the commissions will come as long as the clients get their checks and they pay the amounts that they owe to Jorns. It's that simple. Everything else that you hear is just noise. It's just noise. The bottom line is this is ERC is in full effect. The law has not changed. The moratorium is lifted. Clients are being processed. There are a lot of slow playing going on with some of these notifications, with some quarters and whatnot, but we're having success with the appeals. And just so you know, your clients with Jorns and Associates, I can't speak for other providers, by law, we will have to charge a nominal $150 engagement fee because this is no longer a part of ERC where by law you can charge a 20% or amount of money per contingency. We're just doing straight work. So by law, we have to receive an amount of money as CPAs and tax attorneys to be able to do that work. So just so you know, your client, that's a joke. $150 is a nominal fee. Again, to do the kind of work that's required. And we have clients that are taking 4, 5, 6, 10 hours of work that we're doing beyond the $150 engagement, letter that they have to sign, because this is unrelated to an audit. This isn't an audit. If somebody's declined and we have to appeal, that's a completely separate action that we have to take. that we're doing on behalf of the client. And here's the other piece that I want you to know. You know what clients are doing? They're appealing. I mean, I actually was pretty surprised. Like, I thought some clients would be like, I don't want to deal with the IRS. It ain't happening. I haven't had one client not appeal yet.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, and they should appeal because the things are being done by the book. And second of all, a lot of these clients had their own CPA sign off on. Like, yeah, Jones did the work, but they had their own CPAs or their own tax attorneys or their own advocates look it over as well and say, yeah, this is good to go, especially some of these huge clients. I mean, we have clients that have millions and millions of dollars that are appealing, and they should. It's their money, and by law, it's deserving to them. And the bottom line is we're out there battling, and we will battle every single case, but we got to know those cases exist. That's where your role is huge. That's where your role is huge because we don't know. We can't know, and we don't have the manpower to call 12,000 clients.
Sure.
So
here,
that's just
Greg,
a general overview.
I want to dive in on
and
something here too.
Sure.
Because we've got a lot of people, we got a couple people flaring up in the comments, and I want to, Tom, I don't know last name, but you're mentioning something about some other company paying out commissions. Why don't you go and unmute? I want to know what you're talking about here, and also, get you're asking some question about view of our existing clients. So Tom, I see you there. Do you want to go ahead and unmute so we can actually just
get I unmuted.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, maybe we were a little bit ahead of the curve. I was with
Sure.
iHub. Bottom line was the processor, and maybe those checks are just going out earlier, so I'm seeing commissions earlier than when we stepped in with Top Notch, which is after that. But what I do know is that is the number of payouts commissionable to the agents for this month, and it'll probably be 3 million next month. And that, who knows, it has something to do with the timeline. I don't know. Maybe they had a portal to the back office of the IRS for easier processing.
No.
What I can tell you is I have a full portal view of my clients. Literally on this check run, I saw a check probably paid for 1/4 of $20 and some cents.
Sure.
And then the total from 12 clients is like $3,500. So but we have no pipeline view here, right? We can't see our clients.
Yeah.
And so,
Curtis,
and I didn't call
Greg,
any of those clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problem. So here's the thing that I want everyone to make sure that, we all understand. At the end of the day, obviously, we're all dealing with the IRS, right? So that's one component of it. What, I guess, pipeline view and all of those things that, you have available as a company, that's company to company specific. We didn't build that. Also, frankly, Better is a company that is here to help build out additional lines of service for financial professionals. So that's our main line of focus. ERC, if obviously we're looking back retroactively at this going, okay, yeah, ERC at one point was our main focus, but we kind of moved on that piece in terms of what our key focus is. But the point is we just didn't build that out for ERC.
Understood.
So I apologize. That would have been a great feature to have in there. But what I want you to understand on this is each company is different. I don't know how much Jorns has paid out or how much Top Notch has paid out. We're one avenue. We're one group within a very large organization or two large, organizations that are processing commissions. What I can tell you is I've been in direct communication with the team at Jorns, the team at Top Notch. They are both, whenever something comes through, they're pushing it out. I've received commissions from both companies, and we've paid out probably this month, I don't know, probably 150 grand in ERC commissions. So sure, it's not 850, but also I think we all recognize how this goes. You might have one client that, 6 months ago got declined, they filed an appeal, and maybe that client is, they're a $10 million payout for that company. Well, great, that 850,000, that could be one company. Do you see what I mean? Like, not really, but it could be 2, 3 companies, and one of them just happens to come through at a certain time. So
Sure.
it's
And
kind of
it's
hard to
first in,
compare
first
company to
out,
company.
right?
What's that?
It could be first in, first out. And it's just good to hear that,
Absolutely.
your send checks are going out, commissions are being paid.
Absolutely.
So
Oh
it's a
yeah.
waiting game. We've waited over
Yeah,
a,
exactly.
a
This
year.
has just, I said this at the beginning. This has nothing to do with commissions. It has to
Yeah.
do with the government. Two things. Two things. The government has to pay the client, and the client has to pay the provider. Period. After that, it's home free. So if you're not receiving a commission, or anybody's not receiving a commission, or I'm not receiving a commission, you know what hasn't happened? Either A, the client hasn't received any funds, or B, they haven't paid. It's as simple as that. And so, unfortunately, and there's no way to know where your client is in the stack of millions and millions and millions of docs on somebody's desk at the IRS. That's why I said this is going to be a 2 year. You got this is going to be 2025. This is going to be 2026. I mean, there's clients who haven't been paid that filed before the moratorium in May of 23, in June of 23. So all you have to trust the process. And this sucks that's just the way it is. Now, once it gets past the IRS and it gets past to the client, you're home free. You're never going to have to worry about better paying. You're not going to worry about Jorns paying. But those companies, just so you know, have to get the money. This isn't about commission payout. This is about the IRS paying and the client paying. Those two things have to happen. There's no commission without those two things. And that's what we all have to remember. And we don't know the timeline. I wish there was a way to know, but there isn't a way. And on top of that, and hopefully this will be a good thing, there's about to be a political transition taking place. There's going to be a new IRS regime. So hopefully that's going to, speed things up, make things better. But who the heck knows even what that's going to do in terms of the time frame? It's not going to affect whether it's going to pay. It's going to pay. It's going to pay because there's nothing on the books legally that says it won't pay. But where we don't know is we don't have organizational time frames, and there's no accountability. There's no accountability. So you just have to be patient.
Yeah.
Hey, Curtis,
So let me
you mind
also
if I-
add a couple pieces here, because I know that some of you also want to make sure you have action. What is your action item? So I just dropped a link in the chat for everyone. This is the link to, here, I'll just share my screen so everyone can see this. This is, and I know I've mentioned this on a number of Better calls, but let's be honest, we got a lot of people who left Better after ERC ended, and I get it. For some of you, you moved on. That's fine. No hard feelings. We'll want to try and get you back. But the point being is this: the IRS accelerates work on employee retention credit claims. Agency currently processing 400,000 claims worth about $10 billion. I would suggest taking this article. Lisa, I promise I will get to you. I suggest taking this article also and send that to your client. You folks, I'm also seeing a lot of things in the chat here, and I'm gonna say this nicely but pointedly. Some of you also need to remember what it's like to sell, because some of you are like, my client's not answering, and some of you are also saying like, we're not. They're saying they don't want to go forward anymore because they got a denial, and I totally understand all that. But we need to also remember that we are in sales. We handle people's objections all day long. We're all pros at that. So if someone's ghosting you, you gotta pull out all the fancy gadgets you got on your belt. Send them the emojis to get them back in touch. Are you okay? Did I upset you? Get him to explode on you. Get him to get communicating back into you. Send them an article so they have something to kind of remind them that this is still an ongoing thing. You're going to have to just exert. I get it. Some people are ghosting. Some people have lost faith. Guess what? You can revive that faith. What Greg is saying is, unless they get a denial and they don't act on it, the chances are they will get their money if there's nothing shady in the situation. And guess what? They're working with Jordan's Top Notch, Lassiter and Lassiter. These are all CPAs that are doing the processing. There's nothing sketchy happening in those companies. So you got to realize that some of the the stuff that even Greg was mentioning, that's mentioned even in this article here, is because there are people out there, just like with PPP, that were just making up companies or buying old EINs for companies that had employees that shut down and doing things that are sketchy. So, folks, I want you all to remember that I understand. Trust me, there is nothing more irritating than this whole situation, because it's sort of like this in between waiting period of, yeah, well, checks are going to come, and fortunately, this is the great thing, some checks are coming. So that's like a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But what I need y'all to recognize and remember is some of your clients are going to be upset. Your job, I'm not telling you you have to do this, but my suggestion here is reach out to them. Send them an email with this and say, hey, listen, I think that we've still got light at the end of the tunnel, and get on a phone call with them and say, listen, if you get a denial, I want you to understand that this is the important part. They are mass denying as a strategy. This is what I want you to say to them. They are mass denying as a strategy to get people to not appeal. They're trying to have as many people fall off the books as humanly possible. What we've seen is that when you respond to the denial and appeal, which the respective companies will help with, the chances are you will actually see a return. If they deny part of it and don't deny the rest, there still is the probability of getting more there. I heard a voice pop in. Was that you, Shane?
It's me.
Yes. Go ahead and jump in.
You know what the crazy part is? There's actually an IRS update for tax firms. And the IRS put in writing they mistakenly denied a percentage of those people. Right. But I want to reiterate what Greg is saying. Guys, like, it is very important that you're reaching out to the clients. We're reaching out to the clients as fast as we can. But we have a team that all they do is call for weeks and months. And it takes forever to get updates, right? But here's the part, I think Tom said it. Regardless of what company you worked with, that doesn't determine the outcome of how fast the checks come. There is zero rhyme or reason of why one company got a check before another company, because we've got companies that are still waiting on checks that filed in 2023, but guess what? 2024 clients are already getting their checks. It just makes absolute no sense at how they're processing it. But the key takeaway for today is this. We're paying out commissions. Jordan is paying out commissions. Understand the process for paying out a commission. We get paid. It takes 2 to 3, 4, 5 business days sometimes for the money to clear the bank. Or what if a client mails a physical check to the company? It takes even longer, right? And then we process payroll to Better. And then it has to clear Better's bank account. And then process payroll from Better biweekly. You could be looking at 4 to 6 weeks turnaround time sometimes for that commission to hit your account. But one thing that all of us can assure you is this. Better's receiving money, Better's paying commissions, and I guarantee you there's a group of people on this call right now that just recently got paid. And they recently got paid a ton of money. It is frustrating, yes, but the IRS is moving. They're moving as quickly as they can. Greg said it. Like, I want you guys to envision this for a second. There are literally a handful of IRS offices, and each office has 500 plus thousand UPS and FedEx envelopes piled up in rooms. 500,000 envelopes per office filed up in rooms, because that's the only way you could file was through paper. So they're just grabbing them as they can. They're trying to get them in the system as they can.
Oh, Shane, I think you muted.
The key is they're moving through it, right? They're moving quickly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's coming.
And here's the other thing,
Shane,
fast. And Shane will agree with this too. The other thing you just have to keep in mind, and I'm not saying this is a large percentage. I'm not saying it's what percentage it is. It could be more than likely, and hopefully it's very small percentage. Some of your clients also could get checks and not pay. That's why you communicate with them. So keep that in mind too. That's possible. You're a business person, right? There's three kinds of people. There's people that are happy to pay. They signed up, they didn't know about it, they're happy to pay. The second kind of person gets their checks, they ain't happy to pay, but they do pay because they're honest and they're ethical and they signed an agreement. And you have the third kind of client who don't want to pay. Why? Because people like to keep all their money. That's what they do. They don't want to give 20,000 out of their 100,000. No. So you have to follow up with your clients too, because we can't pay commissions unless the companies are paid. Top Notch can't pay if they don't get money. They don't pay out just because somebody signed up. It's when money comes in. So and to Curtis's point, yeah, you got to follow up. You got to call. You got to see what's up. Because if somebody got checks and they're not responding to you, again, could be clients like that. And we have to be aggressive.
There's some of those clients, guys, these are Department of Treasury checks. They don't say ERC on the check. You have to physically look at the very fine details at the bottom to understand that it's a check for a specific quarter. So we've had some clients that are like, hey, I didn't know that was an ERC check, but we can prove to them, hey, that's an ERC check, and then they pay their fees, right? It's a process.
It is. But remember, the length of time, the longer something goes, as we all know, the longer the time frame, the less people remember what they're supposed to do. Exactly. So that's why you communicate.
Perfect. Thanks, Greg. I'm sorry. Lisa, I know you've had your hand up for feels like 20 minutes now. Go ahead.
I just had a couple quick questions. So I understand the flow. Our task is make sure we're in touch with our client, make them aware of this mass strategy, hoping business owners would fall off, let them know if they were denied, if they got a denial notice, what action should they take?
They should communicate directly with their provider. They should communicate directly with their provider. With those notifications, they should email those notifications in. They should contact the provider. And then we can appeal, and then we can work on what they're going to do is we're going to, on their behalf, appeal everything we're going to do, respond. And here's the thing. All that information that they were denied for, we already have. That's why it's a ridiculous process. So it's not even going to be that hard because the IRS just isn't even looking at the documentation. Yeah. So we just have to now, and here's the good news, not that we wanted to take this long, but keep in mind, now we have 2 years. So somebody's not like, oh my God, I missed it because it says 2 weeks ago, my time ran out. Yeah. But we still want to do it as quickly as possible.
And then Greg, is there a charge for you to follow up?
There's no charge other than, like I said, legally, Jorns has $150 engagement letter, but there's no fee for them to represent the client. There's no fee for them to, do whatever countless hours may be required to putting documentation together. I just had a client that I think it was 12 hours. It cost the client nothing. However, there's something called a nominal charge. When you are a CPA firm or a tax attorney, there is an associated fee under the law because you cannot do it by contingency when you're representing on a certain matter. So that's the only thing from our standpoint that we do.
And then one last question. So since you have no way of knowing when they've been paid, really the only way we know is if they tell us. Is there any cadence of outreach to the client to remind them to tell us?
Well, yeah, there is. Every single month, I speak for Jorns, sends out a reminder notice every single month with an invoice telling the client that if you do not have to pay unless you receive funds. However, if you did receive funds, this is the process in which you need to pay. That happens every 30 days. So every client is getting an email.
Can we get a copy of that?
Sure. I mean, it's just a general blank. It's just a general blank.
Well,
you can't get any specifics, obviously.
Yeah.
But
But I
yeah,
would like
within the
to know what
system, a
they're
general
receiving.
letter, they receive every month an invoice, explains what was filed, explains the amount of money based upon if they receive, this is what they would owe. That happens every single month. But
Okay.
as we
Okay.
mentioned, you'll have clients that will ignore that, right? Because every single month it comes and 6 months goes by. They're like, yeah, they just ignore that probably at this point.
Okay. So I'll email you to get a copy of that, Greg. I have your
Sure.
email. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Good. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do. If there are any questions, definitely drop them into the chat there. But what I would also like to do is I want everyone to be looking at what do we do going forward? How do we go forward with this? So I talked about this earlier on a call, and this is, I think, a very important point. This is not, it can be challenging sometimes, folks. This is a very challenging point. It can be very tempting to get very upset. It can be tempting to feel antagonistic toward Better, Jorns, Top Notch, the IRS, your clients even. It can get very tempting to get angry. It can be tempting to feel like you should be apathetic about it, go into a state of disinterest. All of those things can be very tempting. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if any and all of you did exactly that. And I get it. And that's fine if you did that. But here's what I suggest you do at this point going forward. Get into a state of action at this point. Get into a state where also your client is interested in wanting to talk with you about this, because you're not going to be, the good thing is you don't have to be a bearer of bad news anymore. You can be a bearer of, there is some good news in this situation. We have that article that I just put out there, and I'll put it in for everyone again. This article makes it very clear that the IRS is working to process these things. No legislation was passed. So these are great signs. These are great things. And you get to call them, and in a pleasant way, and I suggest being pleasant with your clients about this. Don't get into the ill tidings of it, and it's so messed up, and it's so this and so that. Let them know, hey, listen, I think there's light at the end of this tunnel here. But get into action and call your client and be very insistent on talking with them about this matter. And also, frankly, they'll appreciate that, because I already know how this goes. I'm giving everyone a blanket amnesty, call it, on this. Some of you haven't called your clients since they signed up for ERC. That's obviously not, what we all should do. What we should do is be calling all of those clients monthly, bi-monthly at the latest, and let them know, hey guys, this is the situation. And I want to be clear. I have a client that I haven't called on this in, a couple months. So I'm just as guilty as you, okay? But here's my strong suggestion. Just so you feel like you're also taking proper responsibility for your relationship, call that client. Let them know what's going on. Talk to them. And then tell them, hey, if you get a denial, reach out to the person, your case manager with Jorns, Top Notch, and hey, forward that on to them. You get any kind of check, make sure to scan it thoroughly, because it should say on there that it's a refund for a specific thing, and let them know that. And then once you are in there with them, here's what will naturally happen. You will have more communication with them. And as a result, what always happens when you have more communication with someone, generally speaking, they start to like you a little bit more again. They have a little bit more loving to send your way, and build on that relationship again. Folks, you did not, outside of not being in touch with your client, I want you to recognize you did not do something wrong. The IRS and Congress, really, they've not made it a process that you can count on, and that is their bordering on criminality. That is not yours. So I'm telling you this because you should reach out to those clients. You should get in touch with them and, take a little bit of that upset they have and just say, hey, listen, I get it. I understand exactly how you feel. Don't forget, we put in a lot of hard work on this, and we don't make any money until you've gotten your money. So you can let them know you're in that same boat, and just acknowledge the fact that they have an upset about the subject matter and help them walk through it. Be a mini therapist, call it, okay? But there's a reason for that. I'm pretty sure no one on this call is a little ERC one-trick pony. I am pretty darn certain of that. Maybe save one or two of you. Most of you are financial professionals. I know some of you are not, but most of you are either in P&C, maybe you are a bookkeeper, maybe you are a life insurance investment advisor, you are something else as well. And you have a vested interest to make sure you do the work to clean up that connection and make sure that they're loving on you again. I also want to make something clear here. We have some people within the Better ecosystem that are taking companies with 50 employees, 100 employees, moving them over to Clearwater as an example, and working with them on their health insurance and saving them an average of 36%. 36% on their premiums. Do you understand how much of a savings that is? They might have gotten, whatever amount with ERC. Maybe they're set to make $1 million back from ERC. Well, folks, you can help them with Clearwater, get a residual commission, and save them a couple $100,000 a year on their premiums and give them, better benefits in the process. Do you understand why, this should not be a negative in your book. This should be a massive positive. And especially most of you, I just know it. Most of you are health licensed. Most of you have everything that you need. Save the application. Here, check it out. Let's make this real simple for everyone. If anyone is sitting in this boat going, yeah, I just need to get set up as with Clearwater, great. Just put the link in the chat. clearwaterhealth.com. Get set up as a broker. We even have people who can help you close the deals as well. What I'm trying to point out here is there are so many other back-end opportunities. Guess what? If they get that check, they have a bunch of money coming their way. Great. I sent a client over to Prosperity Tax Advisors, and they saved $135,000 on their income tax for 2024. For the year that we're in right now, saved $135,000. She was a business owner. Granted, she at the time of VRC had 2 employees, so that wasn't some big thing for her. But the point is, most of these clients that you're working with have decent sized businesses, hence why they were your client for ERC. Turn around and help them with something else as well. Folks, we shouldn't ever be looking at this going, okay, I'm doing this for commission, because that's the wrong way to look at it. That is always looking too late in the process. But folks, that is part of the process. So care enough about the client, reach out to them. Let them know that you care about them. You care about the fact that they are going through something tough with the IRS and that it's frustrating and that you feel their pain. Cindy Henning threw an example of even their own company where she's had to send it in 5 times. And Cindy, that is so messed up that you've had to do that. But, like Greg, and I think it was Shane mentioned that point, some of these offices are their waiting rooms are just filled with manila envelopes of people mailing in their 2020, 2021. People are asking, hey, someone sent me a private message. Okay, but I'm terminated with Better now because I didn't sign up for $5 and $15. Don't worry. Everyone who had a deal in the works, you're vested for any commissions that come in prior to that. So any ERC deal, don't worry, you're going to get paid. You don't have anything to worry about on that. Some of you are asking, okay, cool, but they sent in 2020. So what about the 2021? Am I going to get paid on that? Everything that client sends in, yes, you're going to get paid your percentage on. Don't worry. That is all going to occur, okay? All of that you're going to get paid on. But if you are smart, recognize that this as a incident is felt equally by all of us. We all went through the immense pain that is this period of ERC. Some of us had the immense pleasure of the beginning part of ERC where we were getting checks, but now we're in this period in between that's immense pain. But guess what? You have the ability. It's just a willingness point. If you are willing, say, you know what? He's right, that sucked, but I'm going to move on. And I'm going to come to now, and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to go, you know what? Let's still make something great out of this. I'm going to call those clients. I'm going to help them out. I'm going to let them know what the process is. If they get a denial, this is what they can do. I'm going to keep in touch with that client. I'm going to apologize for not having called them in the last 6 months, 12 months. Say, don't, and I apologize for that. And be honest with them. I was embarrassed that you haven't gotten their checks yet, and that's on me. I apologize. I should have called you anyways. We go back years. You know what I mean? Do that, and then be a person for them that they can talk to, okay? And at a certain point, whether it's now, if it's appropriate, or if it's when they get their check, follow up. Help them save more money with Clearwater. You know, you are probably a financial advisor. Most of you are. Great, they just got a bunch of money. I'm sure most of you think of 1 or 2 things that they could do with that money within your financial company. So I challenge you to recognize that it's not actually your fault that the IRS did all this. So you don't need to feel backed off from calling your client. Just call them and handle them. Use those sales skills and get them to answer, okay? So that's my little piece here. I know that there are a couple little questions. Greg, any last words here? I said we were going to be an hour, and we're 6 minutes away from being in an hour. So
yeah, I would just say the most important, the only thing is be positive. What you said is so true. Like, I haven't lost any faith. I'm not frustrated. I get more, like, if I get frustrated, it's with people getting frustrated. It's like, be positive. Nothing has changed. Yes, it's just dragged through. This is the government. You know, so it's a pain in the neck. It's just like everything else related to the government for the most part. Yeah, be positive. There's no reason not to be positive. The program's not ended. The law hasn't changed. They're going to pay out checks. So at the end of the day, yeah, I would be positive. And I would be positive, 100% agree with their client. Why would you be negative? They have a chance to get money they weren't even anticipating getting in the first place. Whether they get it fast or slow, it's still money that they're going to get. So stay positive, be positive, interact with your clients, have a great attitude about it, and just be patient. And so what? If it comes in the next couple of years, you're gonna have a great one day is going to be a great day for you sometime soon. That's it.
Absolutely. Awesome, Greg. Well, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to close out here and just mention a couple last little bits. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, so last little bit that I want to talk to you about here, because I have some of you on here for the first time in probably 6 months. So I want to talk to you about something, and I'm going to ask you to stay with me for another 2 minutes, okay? Because I want this to be clear. There are still a couple things that I would like you to dive back in and give better a second point of consideration here. 2 things. You know, if you think that Jeff is a pretty good planner, we are doing a Living Life on Purpose event on Thursday. And here's the thing. Maybe you decided not to sign up for Better Plus or Better Pro. Many of you did. We have, you know, basically about 1,000 people who are Better Plus or Better Pro that are really still kicking it and doing a lot of great work with us. And we, you know, appreciate them for sticking around. But some of you would still love to hear from Jeff on how does he plan to, because he you know, he's got a 9-figure net worth. I'm curious. Put 1 in the chat if you wouldn't half mind having a 9-figure net worth. I'm going to put 1 in the chat just in case anyone's wondering if I too would like a 9-figure net worth. I would not half mind that. Some of you are going, though, but it's for Pro and Plus, and I'm not in Better anymore. Great. Here's the thing, folks. Sign up for Plus, $5. I don't care if you cancel the next month. Just do that if you want to go, okay? I'm not expecting or thinking that, you know, everyone who signs up to be at that event is going to stay on now forevermore with Better. I get it if you just want to pay $5 so you can hear some words of wisdom from someone who has done it right for quite a long time. So do that. The second point here, I want you to understand what Better has become right now. Okay, what Better has become right now is a platform designed specifically really for financial professionals. For someone who is actually looking at their business and going, I would benefit from 2 things specifically. I'm just curious. I would like you to put 2 in the chat if you would benefit from either of these 2 things. Making more money from every one of your financial clients that you do, call it a financial needs assessment or a financial needs analysis. If you would benefit by making more money, put a 2 in the chat. If you would benefit from having more ideal clients, put a 3 in the chat and figure out for yourself, what is my ideal client? What would that look like? Go ahead and put a 23 or a 32 if both of those would be something you would benefit from. But if you would benefit from having more ideal clients and making more money for each of your clients, folks, you probably will find something within Better currently today that would actually really benefit you. 2 things of note. I just want to paint you. I'm going to tell you 2 stories really quick. The first one, I'm going to just make it very insanely quick. But I brought someone into the Clearwater ecosystem. He did $1 million a year in income for himself in the health insurance industry. And obviously, we all know how kind of like these sort of companies work. If you recruit the guy who makes $1 million a year, you're not doing too terrible. So he left the industry, the health insurance industry, because he had a situation over there where he didn't feel the ethics was, particularly in order with that particular company. Okay. So I showed him everything with Clearwater. And he's blown away because he's looking at it and going, some of these points are points that I never thought could be handled in the health insurance industry. Health insurance seems to somehow go up every year, yet Clearwater's had 4 years in a row where they haven't increased their prices. 4 years. Okay, 4 years in a row. Their average savings compared to the major plans out there, Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross, you know some of those major players, the average savings is 36%. Okay, 36%. So he is coming back into this game and he's very excited about everything that's available with Clearwater. So I want you to recognize that, you make a percentage of the premium for each client and you have at your fingertips, because most of you are already health licensed with your life and health, you have the availability to come in and get started on that right away and make residual income. Like, take every client you sit with, whether you sit down, work with them on an IUL, or you do money under management, or you do something in between, whatever that is, you do that, and then you save them money and free up cash flow on the Clearwater side. And then next thing you know, you can probably help them put more money toward retirement or set up an emergency fund. You're able to do these additional things that maybe you couldn't do before because they didn't have the available cash flow. So that is one route. The other one is actually a personal story. So I dove back into the financial industry, into the same industry that a lot of you are in. And I've used Prosperity Tax Advisors. I'm going to give you this as an anecdotal example of how I closed in this case, I think it was a 70,000 point policy. So I want you to understand how I use this. Who here would be interested in writing a 70,000 point policy between now and the end of the year? I'm just curious. Go ahead and just put me in the chat or something. Or would you consider that to be like an ideal client for you? Only one person put me. So is only one person interested in a 70,000 point policy? I'm just curious. Okay, good. That's much more what I thought. So I mentioned that someone asked me, hey, what do you do? And I told them I help people save money in the current year on their taxes. And I also help them set up investments that have tax benefits for retirement where they don't pay any taxes in the future. For a lot of people that aren't in the know of exactly what we do and what we know, that's a fascinating concept. So that client sent me to, she wasn't really particularly the perfect person, but she sent me to one of her biggest clients. That client, I had them sit down with Prosperity Tax Advisors, and she saved $132,000 on her 2024 taxes. I then said, hey, great, we reduced your taxes by $130,000. Would you be interested in me telling you or showing you a way that you could put some money toward retirement in a place where you have no risk of losing it, that you won't pay any taxes on it in the future? And of course, she's sitting there like, yeah, you just saved me the biggest amount of money I've saved doing anything in the whole last year. Think of it. I helped her save what most people, even on this call, make a year in taxes. Okay. So she then turned around. I showed her something in the investing life insurance industry, walked her through an index universal policy. And next thing you know, she's putting $120,000 into that policy. And I, set up the policy so it's max funding. So it's the minimum face amount on that particular policy. But that's still 65,000 points, I believe. 65,000 points because I led with solving her biggest problem. Now you can do that with, PTA on the tax side, their strategic tax planning company, or you could do that with Clearwater for a business owner. You can also use the entrance in with ERC. They're a business owner. Talk to them about, hey, I'm just wondering, you're probably already through your renewal, or you got your renewal letter here. What was your increase from last year to this year on your company's health benefits? They're more than likely going to say 12 to 14% because that is the average increase. How about telling them then, hey, this might be something interesting to you. You've got a company of X number of employees, which because obviously their ERC data. Would you be interested in possibly saving about 36% on that cost of premium each year? Would that be something that you would be interested in? You're going to get their interest on that. So I want you to understand there are great strategies that are available with Better that you should follow up with your ERC clients, or come back around and check out, some of the great services that we have available for you, because you are already sitting down with all these clients. You might as well help them with this second thing. All right. So with that, I don't want to keep you any longer. We already went way over time here. So I appreciate everyone sticking around. I understand, we've still got a lot of work to do, obviously, on ERC. We've got to reach out to all of our clients, but make sure you do something on the back end. Get that second sale. Get that third sale, whether it's an IUL, get them over on, tax strategy, or work with them on Clearwater, whatever it is. You have second and third sales to be made there, but it's going to require just reaching out to those clients. And that's also what needs to happen to have you explode that last little bit of your, ERC income, is to help make sure that they get their money so you get yours. So with that, I hope this gave you a lot of strategy and things that you can actually do so you can get into action, leave kind of the emotional side behind, recognize that all is valid. You have every reason to have felt that way, but you know what? It's not serving you. So check it, move into action, and go forward. If you need any help, of course, you can reach out to support at A Better Life. Jet will put that in the chat right now. You obviously have, whatever outlet to Jorns and Top Notch. If you run into any problems in getting a hold of anyone over there, reach out to support at A Better Life and let us know, and we'll do what we can to help, do that. I know some people asked, hey, what about writing further business on ERC? I'm going to be honest with you. We're so late in the game. I don't know that it's really a good idea. If you really want to, through Better, go forward with Jorns. Top Notch isn't on the platform anymore, and that just is what it is. I'm not going to dive further into it, but you can absolutely hop in and work with Jorns, and you will see your Jorns link on the homepage of betterincome.com. So with that, I hope this call was helpful for you. I hope you get into action, and I hope you turn this thing around. But more than any of that, I hope you have an absolutely amazing holiday season. We're coming up on, the holidays. It's a great time to, look at all the things that, we just had Thanksgiving, look at all the things that we're thankful for. Kind of, I feel like the rest of the year is a bit of an extension of that. So I hope you can focus on the things that you're very grateful for and what you're able to still build out with your business, and that Better is here to help with that. So, obviously there's a lot still to be done, but all in all, I hope you have an amazing rest of your year. And if I don't see any of you again because you ride off into the sunset and leave us behind, fair enough. Good luck. But everyone else, I hope that you decide to work with us. I think there's some great things of value to do with Better. And I do think that we'll have many people make an extra multiple 6 figures residual, multiple 7 figures residual, working with some of our partners and working with us. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and have a great week, have a great weekend, and I will see some of you on a future Better call. Thank you so much. Take care.